Hello. I thought I would do a quick video lesson here. It's the first in a long while. I was trying to think of a topic for a lesson, something that hadn't been covered elsewhere in greater detail by someone far more qualified than I. And I couldn't come up with any topics, so I thought it might be an idea to share this very basic lesson aimed at complete beginners. It's about practicing chords and what I see to be sort of the most efficient way of doing so. This is a method that I haven't actually seen elsewhere. It's fairly simple, but lots of you may not actually have thought about it this way, so this will hopefully be a great benefit to lots of beginning guitar students. But let's just assume that this is your very first sort of time that you're going to play a chord. If you look below this video, there's a link to a Word document that says how to practice chords. So if you could get that, it might be an idea to pause the video, download that, print it off, whatever, so that you have it handy. It might make it easier to understand than my Scottish dialect, which has received a few choice comments since my last video, so I apologise if I'm not the easiest to understand for some people overseas, but here we go. So anyway, if you have the sheet now, at the top there's a chord box with a D chord in it. Most people would pick that chord and have a look at it, and the way they would fret it initially would be 1, 2, 3. First finger, second finger, third finger. Fairly straightforward. And then that's generally how that person would then practice that chord until they felt like they were, done with it. They had got it to a significant enough level that they could then move on. However, the method that I like to share with my students is slightly more thorough and allows you hopefully to get from struggling with the chord to almost mastering it in the shortest possible time. So yeah, most players play 1, 2, 3. On the sheet you'll see that there's another 5 ways that you could have practiced that chord. 6 different ways of playing any chord that uses 3 fingers. So we have 1, 2, 3. Hopefully you can see that. We have 1, 3, 2. We have 2, 1, 3. 2, 3, 1. 3, 1, 2. And finally 3, 2, 1. So by practicing all those different permutations of the fingering, you basically give your fingers a better workout. It makes them more independent. It's much easier for each finger to get where it's supposed to go. And it's much easier to identify and fix problems that you may have, for instance, with your third finger maybe muting the second string, we want a nice clear note. So yeah, you'll also see below that it mentions the same system but applied to a chord where you're using 4 fingers, such as B7, an open position B7 chord. Yeah, and you'll see that if you take a chord with 4 fingers, we end up with 24 different possible ways of playing it. Seems like quite a lot, but it's fairly limited when we consider that everything else that we're going to play in the guitar is going to be using these 4 fingers too. So the idea is maybe not to have to thoroughly practice all 24 different possible ways of playing it, but certainly by doing so you're giving your fingers the best chance of forming that shape as quickly as you're capable of, and again, as I say, in the shortest possible amount of time. So yeah, it's a fairly simple concept. You should maybe use this to warm up before you try any chord changes. Most players are very concerned about playing chord changes, moving quickly from one chord to another. However, sometimes we can be doing that at the detriment of the chords themselves, almost running before we can walk. I think it's a much better idea to make sure that you can play each chord, get it sounding nice, hopefully it will be in tune, unlike mine's, getting it sounding very nice, then taking your time and playing the next chord, and then you'll find that when you start to work on the chord changes, that you've sort of eliminated any, quite a number of possible problems that you might run into when you're fretting those chords. So yeah, that's it. That is the technique. I'll maybe do a little video, sort of a follow-up to this lesson, where you can then, start working on chord changes and a method that you can use to take that to the next level. But of course it's important that you can play each chord, get a nice clear sound, and that none of your fingers are interfering with any of the other strings. Now everybody knows that with just a handful of chords you can play thousands of songs, so it's maybe a good idea to, you know, really knuckle down and get these open chords at least sounding as great as you possibly can within the first, you know, few weeks of playing the guitar. It's going to make everything else so much easier. So yeah, hopefully this video was of some help. Hopefully you understood me the entire way, and if not, as I say, the link below contains the Word document that explains everything in just about as much detail. So yeah, happy practicing.